Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. As you've already read the title, this is the review, read with me, a session on the second book in the Sins of Father series. This book is the second book in the Marcella story as well. The first book was By Sins I Rise Part 1, and this is By Sins I Rise Part 2. Now, if you haven't watched the previous video, I'll put the link. You can click on that and you'll get the video in the suggestions. And also, there I have made a lot of videos on Cora Rielly, so I'll put the playlist up here. Also, there are videos on the whole, if you don't know who Marcella is, and if you don't know, the family, the tree, I've made videos on that. You can just go and check it out in the Cora Rielly playlist, which will be in the suggestions up there, and I'll also put different videos of her. Just go and check it out. Now, moving on to this book. Firstly, before going into how I feel about the book, I need to tell you a little about the books that the people who are waiting for this video to decide, depending on this video, to decide if they want to read or not. So I'm going to give you firstly a what the book is about from a third person opinion, which has no judgment, and then I'll tell you what I think, and then there'll be a spoiler section at the end, and also a section where I read, it's a read with me session, because it's like a really new book and I cannot upload the audiobook right now. So we'll do a read with me session where I'll read out the important parts, which will make you a little excited about the book if you want to read it, if it makes sense. Okay. A fatal bond that was never meant to be. Marcella gave MADDOX the impossible choice and he chose her. Still, she wonders if MADDOX is ready to commit to a relationship or if he's scared of losing the uninhibited freedom his biker life offered to him. All his life, MADDOX already knew who his enemies were, but suddenly he's at loss whom to trust. Will he ever find a place in Marcella's life and family, or will old companies give him a new house and purpose? Can enemies ever truly become lovers if the odds are against them? This is, what's written at the back of the... Now, this is a short book, like a 300-page book on the Kindle edition. And it just released recently on the 15th of December. It released on 15th, I got it on 16th. And I read it. It's because I had to make the video. Okay, now a little bit of background of what happened in the last book. In the last book we saw, Marcella was kidnapped by MADDOX, and during that period she has been tortured a lot. If you don't know much, just go and watch the earlier video. Also, during this time when she was a captive, Marcella and MADDOX fell in love with each other. But when the time comes, for her to return to her world, MADDOX chooses her. But suddenly he's just he just goes away without giving any explanation or anything. And everyone thinks that he has betrayed her. And that's where the book stops. And this book picks up right where the earlier one stopped. It's about, first of all, it gives book starts with, it's written in dual point of view. So, you can, what's going in MADDOX's head and what's going in Marcella's head at the same time. Book starts with MADDOX's point of view, why he left. And in this book, there is no big, I'll say, sequence. There's just a little bit suspense in the beginning as to why MADDOX left, why we see MADDOX leaving in the first part. And the rest of the book is just him adjusting in the, mafia life, trying to become a part of it. And also Marcella trying to keep her head held, trying to keep herself up, and the strong self she was, not going down, and, trying to be confident again. And then there's a portion of the book where she gets the tattoo which she got on her shoulder about the Vitiello war, whore. That one, she gets the Vitiello is there, but the whore part gets she gets it turned into a crown, and we see MADDOX supporting her during that time. And it's a really good, okay, I'm not giving my reviews till now. And then at the end we see them having a happy ever after. Now, let me tell you what I think about the book. I have read almost all the books of Cora Riley, and this one by far is my least favorite. I have given it only 2 stars on Goodread. The reason is because, first of all, I didn't like Marcella's first book. You know, like uh, there's a continuation and the book ends in such a way, or that book has to attract your enough attention that you want to read the next one. I wanted to make a video, and that was my prime reason why I read the book, not because I wanted to know why things happened the way they did. Secondly, this book was a little boring. It was like, the reason he left, not at all sufficient, because he could have, in my opinion, he could have called Marcella. He gave up everything he had for her. He had to trust her and tell her why he was going, which would have made things so much different. But obviously it's a book and blah blah blah. Then it's a little boring. You just see them adjusting and that's it. There are certain parts which I liked, which I will read it out, not the whole thing, but like in the portions I like the portion where there's an in the first book there's a chapter which is from the point of view of Luca, and in this book there's a chapter which is from the point of view of Arya. I'll read that out. I'll read the part where he asks Luca for Marcella's hand, the proposal scene, and I'm not gonna read the wedding part. Yeah, that was not just, there was no like explanation. It was just like that after a year they're getting married, and then there's after 10 years that, like, the epilogue is straight 10 years later. So yeah, now it's the spoiler section. I think I've already given a lot of spoilers, so yeah, be just careful. I think it's not major spoilers still. Okay, if you don't want any more, just don't watch it again. I mean, like, after this. So in the epilogue, it's 10 years later. Now, during the marriage, Marcella decides not to change her name. It's Marcella Vitiello, and she didn't want her title to be White, which is MADDOX title. Which he after some time understood, and after 10 years, and she gave a suggestion that maybe you can change, and he was like, don't, I'm trying to adjust here, don't ask me to change my name. And she was like okay with it. They both were understanding about each other's opinion, but we see 10 years later, it's MADDOX Vitiello, because Marcella is pregnant, and he knows that if the child has the name White, it will affect his future. So he takes up the title Vitiello, and yeah, and then I think I'll just read the parts out, because frankly speaking, I didn't like this book too much, and I don't want to say bad about it, because see, every writer has good books and bad books. This is definitely not one of her best works, but at the end of the day, I respect every writer who's written a book, because it takes a lot of effort to think about a story and all that stuff. So yeah, and also I'm struggling to understand why this book was split into two, because the second part is just like, it feels like the book is just like stretching unnecessary. It's just could have been one decent sized book, in my opinion. Now we do a sit with me session. Okay, so first I'm gonna read the part, where like Arya and Luca realize that might be what they have, their daughter has found the same thing that they share. There was a party, the first public appearance she was going to make after the incident and everything. She tried to be confident and everything. She was dressed up and she was getting down. And that's where the scene is, which I will read now. Where is he? A boy called, thundering down the steps like an avalanche. Valerio, Luca growled. But the boy didn't seem to hear him as he stumbled to a hole beside his mother. He was tall and lanky with blonde, slightly curly hair and big grey eyes. You're the biker who kidnapped Marcy? That's a rude greeting, Arya scolded him. But he's right. I should own up to my sins, I said. And are you Marcella's youngest brother? When can I ride your when can I ride your bike? Whenever you want, I said, but amended when Arya's scolding glare hit me. After you get your mother's permission, of course. Heavy steps sounded and Amo appeared up on the landing in a dark three-piece suit. He groaned when he spotted me. before he sauntered down the staircase. Now I have to see him in my home too. As long as I live, it's my house. Luca said. If you keep inviting enemies, that's not going to be long. Ammo! Arya shouted. Valerio's wide eyes slanted to his father, whose face was stone. Let that be my concern, he said. What's your concern? Marcella asked. My head whirled around so fast I was surprised my neck didn't break. Marcella stood on the top of the staircase, an apparition right out of my wildest dreams. My breath lodged in my chest. She was dressed in a plum colored silk dress that hugged her curves. Just thinking about how soft material touched her smooth skin in all the places I burned to touch made me jealous of the piece of clothing. The silky material bundled in front of her chest is soft in soft fold, creating an enticing dip between her breasts. A diamond stud earpiece covered her missing earlobe. She looked like $1 million. She looked like all the money in the world wasn't enough and would never be. I've been looking for an earpiece for her as a gift for Christmas, but then I've decided to give it to her today. Nothing and no one have ever made me want to be a better man more than seeing this otherworldly woman. Every sinner would become a saint just to be granted absolution to her. Marcella Vitiello was a woman who knew her worth, and fuck, she was worth so much more than I could ever afford. I had nothing to offer to her except for my love, my devotion, and my fucking life. I've never considered telling a woman I love you, but I had told Marcella, and right then I wanted to scream it from the top of roof. Maybe it was hopeless infatuation or mad obsession. Most definitely both. Fuck. But if this wasn't love, I don't know what else could be. When I finally blinked again, after what felt like forever, I realized the entire VTLO clan was watching me. I wasn't easily embarrassed, but even I felt caught, especially when Luca and Arya exchanged a meaning look. I couldn't read, and Amo shook his head with disgust. Only Valerio seemed clueless, as I often felt these days. So, that was the look passing that I really like that scene. Okay, next we have the point of view of Arya. Now, what happened is when they go to this party, he goes as her boyfriend, but then she goes there and in a whim she decides that she wants to make it all public and she kisses him. And Luca is there, he's all hot. How can they kiss in public? But obviously he shows her his support in the public, but he is a father of he's a very protective father of a daughter, and it makes his uh, blood boil. uh, so the next chapter after that is from the point of view of Arya, which I'll read. As a mother, I've always wanted what's best for my daughter. I've tried to protect her to the best of my abilities, taking control of the details of her protection. When Luca had told me about the kidnapping, my world had shattered. Our world wasn't kind on women, but I had thought Marcella would never be touched by a wild side of our life. She was supposed to be saved from harm even in a marriage. I've noticed that things between her and Giovanni had been off, but I had hoped that they would miraculously find what Luca and I had. Maybe I had turned a blind eye to the reality of the situation because my wish for Marcella's safety had been too strong. She would have been safe in a marriage with Giovanni, not happy though. Now, as I watched Marcella kiss MADDOX in front of everyone, I realized she has now she was now old enough to fight her own battles, and she fought them in her own way. Marcella was too strong to hide or back down. She was like Luca. She only knew one form of reaction, and that was attack. The kiss was a declaration of war to all the people who have waited for her to cower or to bow to their rules. Luca and I wanted Marcella to be as strong as the goddess we named her after, and she was. Only it was hard for Luca to accept. One glance at his face told me he was about to explode. I quickly touched his forearm to calm him down. His furious gaze darted to me, and some of the anger disappeared, but not all of it. To people who didn't know him like I did, his anger would be well hidden beneath his cold public mask. Amo muttered something under his breath and walked away. Let's go outside for a bit of fresh air, I said to Luca. He didn't move, still watching Maddox and Marcella as if he considered to kill the former right here before everyone else's eye. Luca had a good grip on his monster most of the time, but when I or our children were involved, his protectiveness sometimes made him lose control. One of these moments had led to the feud with Tartarus and ultimately to Marcella's kidnapping. I've never truly blamed him for what happened except for a brief moment of utter despair because he and I both are part of this ruthless world, had chosen to stay in it even with our children, even if anyone was to blame, then we both were. Now one of those dangerous instances again. Now was one of those dangerous instances again. Luca, I said firmly, my fingers digging into his arm through the thick fabric of his suit. Let's go outside. He finally allowed me to take his hand and lead him through the vast French door to a secluded part of the huge rooftop terrace. He propped his forearm up on the banister and glared at the city below us. I knew he was trouble. I should have killed him when I had the chance. Marcella would have never forgiven you. She would have gotten over it. She would have found someone else, someone better. After seeing them together, do you really believe that? I softly linking our fingers. Luca was good at reading people. It was what made him such a good and respected capo, but with Marcella he sometimes preferred to block out certain things. But Marcella's feeling for Maddox were unmistakable. He made a slow sound deep in his throat. Maybe it would have been better to have her hate me for the rest of her life than to allow her destroy her life by being with a white. White is Maddox's last name. Marcella didn't destroy her life. You ruled over the bloody sheets tradition for her. You wanted her to have a choice, and today she made a brave choice. It's our duty as parents to support her and protect her from the people who want to condemn her for her choices. Oh, I'll protect her against everyone. My personal thoughts about what just happened are just that. For a discussion behind closed doors, Marcella will have our full support. I leaned against Luca's strong arm. You remember our first few years together in our penthouse? Places like this always remind me of that time. I'll never forget a single moment. Marcella seems to think she found in Maddox what we too have, and shouldn't we be happy for her? White is a biker. His lifestyle is at odds with ours. When we first met, you didn't think you were a good husband or father, and now you are. Give Maddox a chance to prove himself. Do it for Marcella. I worry that allowing her to pursue this bond will cause more harm for her in long run than do any good. If you give her a choice and don't accept what she chose, you might as well not have given her a choice at all. So you can see them two marrying. You can see White as a part of our family sitting at our dinner table. You can see him belonging to our world and not always be apart. I wanted to see Marcella marry one day, wanted to see Luca leading her down the aisle to the man she loved and wanted to spend her rest of life. I wanted her to be happy. Could I tell if she would be happy with Maddox? No, I was worried too. I couldn't deny it. Love was unpredictable. Would a bond like would a bond to Maddox harm Marcella eventually? I didn't think so, but I couldn't be sure. Not because I thought Maddox would hurt her on purpose, but he wasn't familiar with our world as Luca had pointed out. It's not our choice, Luca. The tabloids and many people in our world will tear into Marcella for the case, and it'll only get worse if we confirm the relationship or, God forbid, announce an engagement. Marcella is an intelligent woman. She knows the consequences when she kissed Maddox, and she is willing to be brave for him and herself. If Marcella accepted the backlash her relationship with Maddox had already caused and would still cause in months and years to come, then she too must love him. I would have risked everything for Luca, would have followed him to the end of the world and beyond. I, more than Luca, followed my gut instincts. It had gotten me in trouble in the past, but over the years I've learned that to use it in a more careful manner. The happiness on Marcella's face is in the private moments she and Maddox shared had given me one of my infamous gut feeling too. Marcella had chosen Maddox and thought she found each other and thought they found each other in most impossible moment. They seemed perfect for each other. They were different, came from a vastly different background, but if anything could conquer seemingly insurmountable difference, then it was love. On my wedding day, I would have laughed about this statement, though I only felt like crying on most important and for many brides the happiest day of their lives. I hadn't been told that day, and only in retrospect could I find joy thinking of that day, knowing love had followed our yes to each other. Marcella and Maddox would one day hopefully affirm their love with a yes. She wouldn't feel trepidation or fear on her wedding day, and that made me even happier. Her choice wasn't mine to judge, but I would do my best to make sure she would never come to regret her choice. I squeezed Luca's hand. Luca, you must talk to Maddox. Maybe even invite him for a drink so you two can really smooth things out between you two. He won't ever belong if you, as a capo and head of a family, won't allow him to belong. Luca stared up at the night sky and sighed. You and Marcella will be the death of me. Okay, I understand that the mid portion of it was a little boring, but still. Now I'm going to read the part where Maddox asks for her hand to Luca, and that's a good part. So I think you should listen. Marriage had never been my plan. I've always imagined having an old lady at some point, a woman I would temporarily tolerate at my side until she, like the ones before her, would annoy the shit out of me and I would dump her. Love Until Death Do Us Apart had seemed like something out of a chick flick I have never watched. A life without Marcella was a torture I didn't even want to consider. Eternity with her, my only desire. If there were a closer bond than marriage, then I would have chosen it. I wanted Marcella to belong to me forever, and I wanted to belong to her. I wanted every fucker who wrinkled their nose at our bond, and particularly at me, to know that Marcella and I belonged together, that nothing in this world could part us. Even Luca Vutiello hadn't been able to do it. I tried to prove myself to him over the last 6 months, helping him strike down several rogue Earl supporters and protecting Marcella as well as I could. But he and I still never talked anything but business, and despite Marcella and Arya's insistence, I had never been invited to a family dinner. I couldn't really blame him. If I had a daughter like Marcella, I would make anyone's life hell who dared to think he was worthy of her. Maybe today would finally tip the scale in my favor, and maybe it would make him lose his shit. The bouncer only nodded as I stepped into Spear. To think that the day would come that I could go and come in a familiar club still was hard to believe. Today it wasn't business that brought me here. I headed into the back where the office was and knocked. Come in, sounded Luca's deep voice. I had to admit I was a bit nervous. Marcella loved her father and undoubtedly wanted his approval. I walked inside. Luca sat behind his desk, typing something on his laptop. He sat back in his chair and pointed at the chair across from him. I sat down and briefly felt like my young self during one of my many visits to the headmaster's office. What brings you here? He asked neutrally. He and I had mastered being civil to each other. I need to talk to you. It's about Marcella. At once his expression became alert and wary. What about the pocket of my leather jacket? Nothing the subtle tensing of Luca's body. Trust would take time if we have reached that level at all. I opened my palm where my grandmother's engagement ring rested. During my last visit to my mother 4 weeks ago, which had been only the second time I saw her since she sent me to find Gray, she had given it to me. I remembered mother's words about how her relationship with neither my father nor my uncle had been true enough for her to want to use the ring. Not that either of them had ever asked for her hand. She had always been their old lady. She had given it to me because she could see that Marcella was more. I have been shocked back then because I had been ready to admit that I wanted to marry Marcella. I want to marry your daughter, and I know how much your approval would mean to Marcella. That's why I'm here to ask for her hand in marriage. Luca stared at me as if he saw me for the first time. Does she know you're here? That would defy the purpose, right? For what I understand from your traditions, I have to ask you first before I ask Marcella. I don't think she expects me to pop the question anytime soon. But you're sure she'll say yes? Was I sure? Fuck no. With a woman like Marcella, no man should be too sure of himself. But I hope she would say a yes. Do you think she would say a yes? I shot his question back. He nodded. I think she'll do. His words caught me by surprise. So, what do you say? Will you give me her hand in marriage? Would it change anything if I said no? He asked. Fuck, sometimes he really freaked me out with his ability to see through me. No, I said truthfully. Good. Marcella deserves a man who'll fight against all the odds to be with her. You have my blessing. I nodded and shoved my ring back into my pocket. I expected more resistance and was now faced with my nerves over how to pop the question to Marcella. I'll ask her today, I said, following an impulse. A hint of a wry smile teased Luca's mouth. I won't change my mind. No need to rush. Better safe than sorry. Marcella's probably going to be annoyed that you first asked me. It's what she would have wanted. Yes, but she also wants to be an independent woman who decides for herself. She can't have both, I muttered. She's a woman. She'll have both, setting you like every other man for failure. I chuckled. You sound like you have experience with this. I am married. He chuckled briefly and I fell in. It was a strange bonding moment that quickly had us both uncomfortable, so I left. Okay, then there's a portion like, when he proposes to her. Now they both go to a shelter where there's a dog, Santana, where Satan was actually her name, and then they changed it to Santana. And she's at the rescue house and they want to adopt her. So I'll just read the portion like how he pops the question. She's at the shelter and then he goes. She kissed me in greeting and was about to pull back to greet Santana, but I held her against me a moment longer. She peered up at me and slowly her brows puckered. Is anything the matter? I shook my head. I asked Raul if I could adopt Santana and he gave me a okay. Marcella's face lit up. Really? She squatted down and scratched Santana's ear the way she liked it. You'll get you forever home. I wasn't sure what propelled me to do it, maybe the caring way Marcella patted Santana, but I pulled out the ring. Will you marry me? I asked. Marcella's head shot up, her eyes widening. I held out the ring. It wasn't the modern piece and certainly not as expensive as most of Marcella's jewelry, not even clothes, but I couldn't imagine giving her anything else. Then I realized what the fucking idiot I was. Marcella was kneeling beside Santana and before me when I should have been on my knees. Stupid idiot, I muttered. What? She asked, half amused, half confused. I got down on my knees beside her. I know this isn't how it's supposed to be done, but will you marry me? Marcella eyed the ring. Your grandmother's? She asked instead of answering my question. Yes, I wanted you to buy you a new ring, but none of those would meant as much as this one. She didn't say anything, which made me continue. I'll be the best husband for you. I'll have your back when you need it. I'll be at your side when you need a partner. And if you need a protector, I'll make up your front. I'll be your knight in dirty armor, your lover, your confidant. I'll kill your enemies and hold your crown. I'll give my blood, my life, and anything else you want. You don't have to convince me. I know you're the right man for me. So yes. Yes? I asked like an idiot. Yes. And that's how. And I think that's going to be the end of the video. Different people are going to have different views about the book. This is my point of view. There are portions I liked and there are portions I didn't. Maybe that was the reason I gave it 2 stars and not 1 star. You may like the book. If you like the first one, you should definitely read the second one. But I didn't like the first one that much. So yeah. Also, next week, I'm going to post a video again of kind of like a short asking you people about, the next week's audiobook suggestion, or maybe I have already posted. If I've already posted it by now, I will put the link in the description or in the I. Just check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video and continuing. If you are still watching, thank you for being here till the end. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Thank you so much.